Welcome to the Prison Professors Podcast. We serve people who face challenges with prosecution, sentencing, and prison. My co-founders are Sean Hopwood and Justin Paperny. My name is Michael Santos. We create digital content and our team offers individual consulting services. We also assist agencies that want to improve outcomes. To learn how we can help you, text the word Prison Pro to 44222. Again, text Prison Pro to 44222 and get our free brochure. You can also visit us at prisonprofessors.com or contact Justin at 818-424-2220. Please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Send confirmation that you reviewed our podcast and we'll send you a free digital book. Stay tuned for a 20 to 30-minute episode of Prison Professors. Welcome back to Prison Professors. I am Michael Santos, and we're going through episode number 3 with Lynn Espejo. She has been so generous with her time, spending time in the first episode, which I broadcast 2 days ago, where she told us about going through the criminal justice system, dealing with counsel, being targeted for prosecution, and all of the pain that comes along with that. Yesterday's episode, she spoke with us about what happens after a conviction with regard to the pre-sentence investigation, the preparing for sentencing, the bad advice she received along the way, and even being targeted by unethical prison consultants who gave her bad advice and actually suggested that she engage in new criminal conduct that could have resulted in even more problems for her. Wisely, she rejected that offer. But today, we are going to be talking about getting ready to serve a 45-month prison term in a federal prison. And so, Lynn, I'd like you to talk with us a little bit about where you were able to find research on how to choose a women's prison and what you have learned so far about what's coming.
Well, trying to decide where to go, the first step I did, I went to the BOP's official website, and you can look up locations. Unfortunately, most of them are for men, but there is a drop-down box that you can say, for female inmates. And so I started researching any of them that were, within a reasonable driving distance from me. It was my understanding that the BOP is supposed to keep you within 500 miles of your home. That doesn't always happen, but that's supposedly their policy is supposed to keep you within that range. Actually, Bryan, Texas, where I'm going to go, is a little bit further than I think Aliceville in Alabama was closer to me, and a couple of the other ones. But I had got on a site called PrisonTalk.com, and I had looked at what former inmates had to say about Bryan and Aliceville and some of the other ones that were within that 500-mile radius of my home. And I felt like after listening to what people had to say on there that Bryan, Texas would actually have, a lot of things to do. They have a lot of classes you can take. It just sounded to me like, the major complaints are food and, guards, they say, having power trips. But for the most part, Bryan got really good reviews by people. And so I decided that that was where I was hoping for. Again, I was not prepared for my judge to ask me that at sentencing at all. It just so happened that, after I was found guilty, I started looking for information and just happened to know about Bryan, Texas, fortunately, because I would have not had a clue what to say otherwise.
Mm-hmm. And what you've learned so far, what do you envision as the best outcome for you while you're in there? So you're going to surrender in a couple of months, actually in a couple of weeks. What do you envision is going to happen once you get to the prison?
Well, first of all, I think that trying to keep a positive attitude will be very helpful. So I have met with my pastor many times, and I've friends, I've talked with friends and of course with my family. And I just, I'm hoping that I can go there and just keep a positive attitude, try to stay low on the radar of guards. I don't want to have any headbutting with officials there. I hope that, I can take classes, get into stuff to keep me busy. I would like to help teach GED classes there, which is another thing RDAP law consultants told me not to do. They said if you teach GED classes that, the guards will get to know you and that they won't give you as much halfway house time, which sounds silly because, I feel like with my educational background, I could help people that need to learn, get their GED so that they have a better chance when they do get out of prison to get a job. But also, a lot of self-reflection, I think. I do realize that there was red flags that I ignored that helped get me to where I am. So those are things that I've been working on anyway, that I will continue to work on, not let myself get taken advantage of and not let myself ignore red flags that are extremely important when you're, thinking about ethics and morals. And, it's easy to tell yourself when you're making $75,000 a year and, you're charging stuff on your own personal credit card, you're like, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. My honest thought back then was if he got caught, if he really was avoiding taxes, that he would just get penalties and interest, because that's what I had seen. I had worked in public accounting before I was at that job, and that's what I'd seen happen to clients. So I felt like, when you're in school, you're told you don't police your clients. You just make comments to their file. You don't do something to help them. If you know something's wrong, you can fire a client. But, if you suspect something and you confront a client and they can say it's not right, that you're wrong, you don't necessarily fire a client. But I worked for him. So, I'm going to try to work on the red flags that I ignored during that time. I'm thinking maybe I might take some cosmetology classes. I don't know. It just depends on, your time frame there and if you can get in the classes. But my understanding is you can work out. There's classes. There's you can help other inmates with things. I would love to learn Spanish personally, so maybe I can learn that while I'm there. I think there's a class for that. I just plan on staying as upbeat and positive and as busy as possible so the time goes by quick.
I'm sure that many of the other inmates are going to derive a great deal of value and benefit from having somebody with your energy, your intelligence, your ability to express, to teach and articulate life stories is really valuable. The important part, though, is to realize you are going to be separated from the people that you love and the people who love you. And I think that it's always helpful to go into that journey with a very clear plan of action. On a sentence of your length, how long is it? Is it 48 or 45 months?
45.
So it's 45 months. I had a 45-year sentence, so we have something in common in that regard.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, going through whether it's 45 months or 12 months or 20 months, the important point is to go in there with a very solid plan, and it's very helpful if you can break that plan down of what steps you are going to take while you're in there, including what books you are going to read, what you expect to learn from those books. Another great, I think, strategy is to share this with your family members. You've spoken in each of the past 3 episodes, you've spoken with us about having a husband who's really gone through this journey with you. And to the extent that you can involve him in your adjustment, you're going to make it easier for you and for him to stay current with what you're doing. Do you?
I also have 3 children that have had to go through this too. The oldest one is going to be turning 26 soon. So he during this time, we've got him out of college and on into his career. He was in his first semester of college or second semester of college when I was indicted. The other one is about to turn 21. He'll turn 21 about 10 days after I go into prison, he'll turn 21. And then we have a 17-year-old that's still at home that will be starting his senior year in the fall, which, that's really sad because I'm going to miss, his senior year. We also have 2 dogs that we've raised since they were puppies that are 9 and 7 that are getting old and not in great health. So, that's another thing. I wonder if I'll ever get to see them again when I leave. Sorry, don't mean to get choked up. But when you start talking about your family, leaving your kid at home their senior year, not being there to see, the things that For instance, the middle son is going to graduate college while I'm gone. For all I know, the oldest one could end up married while I'm gone. He has a girlfriend. You just don't know. So there's so many things. Like this past Christmas was very bittersweet, Thanksgiving and Christmas for that matter, because to be honest, when I got convicted last year in February, I got convicted on February the 8th. I never expected to have another Christmas and Thanksgiving before prison with my family. So each little moment that you have during this process before you're going into prison is even that much sweeter.
It is, but I can tell you, Lynn, that this is the hard time because you're dealing with the unknown. It's been hard for you since 2010 because it's been hanging over you and your family for longer than 7 years. And that feeling of having it hanging over you is really like a very dark cloud. And right now you have some finality of 45 months. During these 45 months, I would really encourage you to, first of all, do you know what 45 months translates into with regard to how much time until you can expect to be released? Do you have any clarity on that?
I've heard that you do 85%, but then someone else told me that really you only get 12.88% off each year instead of 15. So I've heard two different things on that. So I know that I'll get some good time off. I also know that I'll get some halfway house, depending on. It's my understanding you're supposed to at least get 10% halfway house, which in my case, that'd be 4 to 5 months. There is the Second Chance Act that I'm not sure if I qualify for or not, but that could actually get you up to 12 months halfway house. But I don't know.
Let's use a little simple tool that we have here available at prisonprofessors.com. I am going to go to a calculate release dates. It's a good time calculator, and it will help to calculate that information for you right now. So it asks some questions, and I'm just going to go through it right now for you for free. It says, is your sentence longer than 12 months? In your case, yes, it is. It's 45 months, but you are not going to be going through RDAP. So what that would show you is that you're going to serve, the approximate number of days that your judge sentenced you to serve is 1,368 days. Here is the amount of good time that you're going to receive, assuming you don't get involved in any disciplinary infractions that result in the loss of good time. That would be 178 days of good time. It'll tell you that you're going to serve 1,190 days. That's some clarity, which is 39.13 months on your sentence. And I would say you can expect at least 5 months of good time. Of halfway house time. When you said the Second Chance Act, what the Second Chance Act provides for is that you could get up to, you could serve up to the final 6 months on home confinement, but you could actually be released 12 months earlier than that 39 months. It's unlikely, and under this administration with Jeff Sessions at the Attorney General, it's unlikely that you would get the 12 months of Second Chance Act. So I would just discount that and just say, okay, it's about 34 months until you are able to come home, which is 2.84 years. And when is your release date? Your surrender date?
February 26th.
So we could look at this. February 26th, I can calculate the dates, and it would show that you can kind of expect to be released to a halfway house in December of 2020. Now, I know that sounds like a very long time away. It's 34 months to release to a halfway house. You can look at this report, though, and say, okay, what steps can I take to make this the most productive journey possible in 34 months? Okay, so say if I'm going to be away for 34 months, and I would say that's a pretty good rule of thumb for you to use in planning. My suggestion for you and your family is to create a map. Let's divide that 34 months into 3, okay, and say, what am I going to do every 12 months? I'm going to do 3 sets of 12 months, and then I'm going to be back home. 3 sets of 12 months. Take each one of those sets of 12 months and divide that into 4 and say 4 sets of 3 each one. Now that's going to give you like a map. At least that's what really worked for me, Lynn, is to have a very clear roadmap. I'm going to read it. So if I know if I'm going to set a 3-month plan, that's a lot easier than setting a 34-month plan. 3 months, okay? You remember 3 months ago, right?
Yes.
3 months ago doesn't seem like it was that long ago. I mean, you hadn't even been sentenced yet. Is that right, 3 months ago?
November the 3rd was when I was sentenced. So, yes, 3 months ago I got sentenced.
And that does that seem like a really long time ago for you?
Some days, yes, some days not.
I can tell you in prison what will happen is the days are going to feel like years, and the years are going to feel like days, okay? What I mean by that is you're going to go through some days and it's going to be, oh my God, I just can't wait until mail call, till I get my mail. And then you're going to go through some days where you feel like I'm so productive, the day just zipped by. But after a year passes, you're going to say, wow, how did I get through a year so quickly? It seems like I just walked in here. What's really important, Lynn, is that when a year passes, you feel like it was one of the most productive years of your life. And that doesn't happen by accident. That only happens with you charting out a plan, right? It's like as if you're building a house. If you're building a house, you hire an architect, you set some blueprints, you set some timelines, you set some budgets in place, and then you go forward and put priorities down and you execute the plan. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's a good idea. Exactly.
It's the same thing that you can be doing right now. I would be just really grateful if you and your family laid out a blueprint for 34 months, not 45 months. Do 3 12-month projects. And in those 12-month projects, I think it would be just awesome if you identified what books you are going to read. Don't just say I'm going to read. How many books have you read in the last 12 months? I know you've been busy, but how many have you read?
I was in grad school up until December. Couldn't go this semester, obviously, but I'm only 2 classes away from my grad degree, so I probably will get some books sent in that go along with that as well.
What are you studying?
Mental health counseling.
Excellent. That's an area that you can provide enormous value, and these are things that you can be doing right now. And that's really what I would urge you to do over these next couple of weeks before you go. Identify a very solid plan. A plan that will reveal which books you're going to read, identify them, and then tell your family members that I am going to read these books during the next 12 months, and your family members then can use this kind of as a gauge. Okay, mom only has to read, she said she's going to read these 24 books during the next 12 months. 2 books a month. That's what she promised us. Let's hold her accountable and work through this with her. And then you have the books sent in to you on time. You read those books, and then I would suggest that you do an activity that's an interactive activity with your family. Meaning, you tell your family, this is what you're going to expect from me. And I just threw out a number there arbitrarily. I don't know what books you're going to read or how many you want to read. You may say, 24 books is not enough. You may say 24 books is too much with all the other things that I'm going to be doing. You have to be the master of your course. You are going to architect this journey for yourself. Okay? And every time you read a book, you tell your family, okay, I'm going in on February this date. On March 24th or 25th, after my first month, this is what you're going to expect from me. I'm going to send you a book report for each book that I read. And in that book report, I'm going to answer 3 questions. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. These are the 3 questions that you answer. Number 1, why did I read this book? That's the first question you answer. So you're looking for books that have a deliberate purpose because you want to pursue a career in mental health counseling. Well, right now, let's take the time when you have access to Google and searches, what are going to be the most relevant books for you to read? Pick them out. Identify them. Have a system in place that they can be sent to you. And then write, why did I read it? Number 2, the next question you're going to answer is going to be, what did I learn from reading? And then you put the title of this book. And you write down what was relevant to you in that book. How did that book influence your thinking about the career that you're going to pursue and the way that you are going to add value to the clients that you serve? And the third question that you can answer with this book report would be, How will having read this book contribute to my success upon release? Now, there's a reason I'm asking you to answer these 3 questions and to do this interactive exercise. Number 1, it will help your family members climb this ladder with you. And they will feel a sense of pride because my mom is going through this with her dignity and tact in a methodical way, that she is not wasting time, but rather she is using this time to make the best of an unjust and unfair situation. But number 2, the time that she is using is going to be relevant to her when she comes home. And you begin to teach others through this very methodical approach of how you get through prison. That was a strategy that got me through 45 years. I wrote book reports and I would share them with the people that were important to me in my life. And it allowed them to realize, hey, I can climb this ladder. And this is a lesson that is valuable to anybody who is going through struggle.
Absolutely, I agree. One thing that I plan on doing also, I am wanting to write a book. I've already started it about this journey, kind of, talking about my case, but also red flags, the little voice I had in my head that I ignored, and how God's grace has actually, got me through this journey.
And God's grace will continue to get you through the journey ahead. So it's really crucial that you move through this process with a very solid plan, that you include those people that you love with your plan, and that you execute the model every single day. And that's how you get through the days, as the days turn into weeks and the weeks turn into months and the months turn into years. And then you come home and you're able to tell your family, wow, I got through it. We got through it. We're stronger because of it. And we are moving into a better life because of the way that I approached this.
Well, I think in your case, did you have restitution?
Well, so I definitely had restitution, but my case is different. There are some advantages to serving a very long sentence. Actually, I should say that at the time. When I got sentenced in 1987. And at the time that I was sentenced, the law held that the government only had 20 years to collect on a fine.
Right.
And my fine expired when I was 20 years into my sentence. So my fine was like $2 million. I was fined to $500,000. And the fine expired after I was in for 20 years. Unfortunately, the law is different today.
Right. Renew it. They can renew it for another 20, right?
No, it's not that it's renewed. It's that the government has 20 years to collect on a debt. But the law now holds that if imprisonment was imposed, the 20 years doesn't begin to toll until you get out of prison. So,
well, you got to remember, you may not know this, I'm 53. I'll be 54 in a month after, not even a month, a few weeks after I go to prison. So, 20 years, I'm already going to be 74 years old. Plus, if you add the 3 or 4 years I'm in jail,
but don't worry so much about your restitution. It's not going to be a big burden on your life. You are going to be able to resume your life, and you will have some type of nominal payment schedule when you come home, but you're going to be able to make it. I can just tell by talking to you how smart you are and how motivated you are, and you're going to come back from this stronger than when you went in, and I have no doubt that you will be able to use this experience to resume and rebuild your life, just as I have, just as my 2 colleagues have, my 2 partners have, and just as everybody that I've profiled on Prison Professors Network has. So don't look at this as being the end. It's been a difficult journey, but the worst part is really this period of time that you've dealt with the unknown. It's going to get better going forward.
Well, in my case, because, there was wire fraud, there was money laundering, and tax fraud. So all 3 of those, you have to pay money. My restitution is over $819,000, but the judge did order that during my incarceration, 50% of all money available to me, which would mean money my family and friends would put on my commissary account, goes to restitution.
Yeah, that's going to be a challenge that you have to live with. But once you get into prison, you will find that even that type of a challenge you can get around. You can make progress toward. You can live with those restrictions. I lived with those restrictions, those same types of restrictions, having to comply with the federal, the FRP program. It's called the Financial Responsibility Program. And yet I found ways to make it through. I know it seems difficult. You are going to get through all of this, Lynn, and I hope that you find some inspiration and hope in looking at the reality of all of the people that we've profiled on Prison Professors and say, wow, they were able to come back to society strong with their dignity intact and get on with their life. You are going to be able to do the same. And one thing I will ask is that once you get there, I see that you have a lot of energy and that you're very articulate. I think it would be really great if you documented your journey and wrote articles. You can include us on your Core Links account and write to us. If you visit Prison Professors right now under the review section, you can actually connect with somebody who was at Bryan Camp right now and have a welcoming party for you. In fact, I'll send an email to her today to introduce you so that she'll be there and waiting for you when you surrender.
That would be awesome. I had thought about blogging while I was there. I have a friend that had told me she would blog for me, but then I've heard negative and positive about doing that. So, that's still something I was considering. Also, I feel like I said, I would like to write a book about this just because I feel like my journey could save someone else from the heartache that my family's experienced.
Yes. And that's one of the things that you've already done today by sharing your story over the past 3 days. You've given us an incredible amount of content that is available to anybody who's listening to the podcast, and I would encourage them to listen to all 3 episodes. I will encourage you to write and send your articles, if you could, to Prison Professor so that we can publish those and anybody can read about your journey. I'm sure it's going to be an inspiring journey, and it's going to be a successful journey because of your attitude. Stay with it, and you'll get through this. But we've come to the end of our 3rd episode, and so I've got to wrap this up and ask you, do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience, Lynn?
I would just say, if you're going through this process, hire the right people up from the front, and don't expect that the truth matters. A public defender, honestly, I wish I would have just asked for one. I think my results would have been just as good, maybe even better. And stay positive as best you can. I have up and down days, obviously, anybody going through this does. But try to do, for the past 7 years, we've tried to live our life. We tried to act normal every day. We've tried to do things that kept our life on a normal scale. There was days when that didn't happen, but don't get down on yourself whenever you are having a bad day, because let's face it, even if you weren't going through this, there's bad days in life for all of us, regardless of the struggle. But if you are a religious person, like my family is, keep God at the center. Put your trust in God, rely on God the best you can. I know some days I've even questioned that, like, why are you letting me go through this? But in the end, I think just try to stay strong and try to stay positive. The more positive you can be, because there's days, I have negative days, and I know those days hurt me. Try to surround yourself with positive people. And one thing you do learn in this process, you do learn who your true friends, family, supporters, people that really believe in you and are going to be there for you are. That is the one thing that is both positive and negative in this situation. But I would just say a positive attitude and just try to keep your life as normal as possible. And take a plea deal as soon as possible and get it over with. Honestly, as sad as that sounds, I just don't think that you're going to win in court, no matter what the truth is.
We've been listening to 3 episodes with Lynn Espejo. I wish you success through the journey. And if you're listening to prisonprofessors.com, listen to the Prison Professors podcast, we hope that you will rate and review the show. If you'd like more information, visit prisonprofessors.com or text the word Prison Pro to 44222, and we'll send information on how we can help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.